Hello, I'm Julie Cronshaw. I've been teaching Cecchetti Method classical ballet in London for more than 25 years. I graduated from the Royal Ballet School Teachers Training course in 1986 and danced professionally before setting up my own school. I'm a fellow of the ISTD in the Cecchetti Method and hold the Enrico Cecchetti diploma. Most recently, I've made a film called Ballet's Secret Code, which is available on this channel. And for more information, content and even more videos, you can go to the website balletsecretcode.com. I hope you enjoy this video. Hello, I hope you've been watching some of my videos called Tips from a Ballet Teacher. On one of them, I've explained that there are 7 movements of dancing, and I gave an acronym for these 7 movements of dancing, which is PERGSET: Plier, Étendre, Relever, Glisser, Sauter, Elancer, Tourner. Some of you have written to me to ask for an explanation in more detail about these 7 movements of dancing, so here's another video. I hope you enjoy it. Hello everybody. There is a saying, this is what my Sanskrit teacher used to say to us: every word is a meaning and that is what it does. And what I love about ballet, and what we all love about classical ballet, is that the French terms are very, very specific, just as the French language is very specific. So let's start with plier. Now usually when we do pliés, we say bend the knees. Plier, if you look it up in the French dictionary, also means to fold, like when you fold a piece of paper. So that's the alternative meaning for plier. There we go, plier, to fold or fold up. You got that? And this is an older dictionary, how it's shorter. 1967. There you go. Now we're going to move on to étendre. And I looked this word up in a couple of my French dictionaries. One of them didn't even have it, but the older dictionary did have étendre, which thank goodness they did. And I'll get the exact meaning for you. This is the Harrop's Shorter Bordas, which says about étendre: to spread or stretch, okay, which is lovely. So for example, to hang the washing up on the line is étendre la lessive. And that's rather lovely because if you look up in the French littré, it says to stretch long, that's long, and large, wide. And my ballet teacher, Roger Tully, always used to say to us when we were doing our battement tendus at the bar, we must be long to the front, yeah, wide or large to the side, and high to the back. Yes, or H-A-U-T, all right? So that's étendre, to stretch. In Cecchetti Method, we call battement tendu this, okay, which is, again, expanding and enlarging a directional movement from, say, a 1st or 5th position out to one of the directions, front, side or back. In France, this is a dégagé, which means to disengage. So that's very different. And this, in France, is a glissé, and Cecchetti calls it a dégagé. The next movement of dancing that we come to is relever. And when we have a relever in ballet, it means to rise, okay? And there are different kinds of relever in ballet. We have the drawing up onto our toes with that feeling of hover once you get there. And then we also have the relevé, which we use a lot in Cecchetti, especially if you're in point shoes, for example, and you do the little sprung relevé, like this. And that's also relevé. And I would like to just digress a little bit as we're talking about that notion of hovering or you're staying above gravity, and talk about the sous-sous, which we all know in classical ballet. Your teachers, my teachers would say, we're going to go into our relevé, we're going to sous-sous, and we're going to balance at the end of an exercise. In Cecchetti Method, we have a sous-sous, which is a little bit different. It's a movement that starts with a plié, which describes very much the word under, because sous means under in French. And then the sous, S-U-S, is the movement of pushing up against something. Okay, so for example in French they would say sous à l'ennemi, so up against the enemy. And when we have a little sous-sous, the movement looks like this. Okay? And I know that the other susu that you're probably familiar with is this little stepping up onto the toes. And this movement here, Cicchetti called it a posé en avant. Okay? And the susu that he would describe is that one. And of course you can also, I suppose, susu backwards, and you could probably also susu sideways, why not? So that's hopefully explained relever a little bit more clearly, which is basically to raise oneself up. We then come to glisser, which is to glide. And I looked this up in the dictionary as well. And glide is one of the words, but we also have to slide or to slip. All right? And of course with glisser, the most obvious step that we have is a glissade. And there's various different kinds of glissades. You have them sideways, you have them forwards, backwards, changer. You have them précipité into a jump, or a little précipité glissade into a posé of some sort, or piqué in some sort. So that's the glisser, to glide. And the next movement of dancing in that acronym, perg-set, is sauter. And sauter, as we all know, means to jump. And it also means to hop or skip. So that's rather lovely. And they have in the dictionary to jump for joy as one of the descriptions. So that's sauter, to jump. The next movement of dancing we have is a very interesting one, is Elancer. And Elancer is quite simply described as to dart. And it also means to throb, as if you've been stung with something and it's throbbing with pain. When you add the S to the verb, so s'élancer, to which is the reflexive, or the verb applied to oneself, this means more closely the action of darting. So in ballet, when we have darting movements, they're quite specific movements that are, I would suggest they're a little bit more dynamic than just a straightforward jump. So for example, if you have a sisson, yeah, that's a darting movement in Cicchetti for sure. You can sisson backwards, you can sisson to the side, you can sisson with a beat, you can sisson change of direction, all sorts of things. So there's a sisson, but I suppose there must be some other movements that have that darting quality. For example, the tourner de cuisse. And this is another discussion we could have. In the French tourner de cuisse, you have the little pickup with the sisson, and in Cicchetti we have a little dégagé with a relaxed leg and the sisson movement. But both of them, whether you're doing either the picked up tourner de cuisse or the one with a little dégagé, the darting movement, the Elancer quality, comes with the sisson. So that's Elancer. And I suppose also, if I had more room, I wouldn't show you this because I don't really dance anymore, but they have the jetés across the floor, perhaps not the jetés that go up and over with that transference of weight quality that we more closely associate with the jeté, but you'll have low darting-like jetés across the floor. And I do remember my teachers back at the Royal Ballet School explaining that the darting quality jumps were like a dragonfly going across a pond, and I always thought that was a beautiful description of Elancer. And finally we come to tourner, and that's very simple, tourner, to turn. And of course we have turns on two legs, we have turns on one foot, and you've probably seen my video already about the different kinds of relevés that we use in our pirouettes. So tourner quite simply means to turn. With tourner, to turn, Cicchetti uses this word in some of his steps which in other systems and methods would have a different name. So for example, if we go to chaîner, which most people will call by that name outside of France, in France it's called débouler, which means to unball or unravel, Cicchetti calls petit tour, okay, little turns. So you have your chaînés are called petit tour in Cicchetti method, And the other step that we all know, which has got the word tour in it, is a tour en l'air. The other step that you will all recognise is the piqué turn. Cicchetti calls a posé tour, so that's where tourner is used again. Like that, foot at the back, or as Cicchetti would have done, foot at the front. And it's quite interesting to note, and I found this when I've been teaching turns on diagonal and turns across the floor, and also doing balancing choreography. If you're using the travelling spot, you're going across, say you're going across the front of the stage in a manège, or across the floor, but you want to have the travelling spot towards the audience. It's easier to put the toe at the front of the leg, and if you're doing a very, very fast diagonal straight down to the corner, it's easy to keep your toe at the back of the leg. So that's it, those are our 7 movements of dancing, and I hope it's made it a little bit more clear. I would recommend, if you can, get a hold of an older French dictionary where the descriptions of these words will be more detailed than perhaps in a more modern dictionary. And I would also recommend, if you're interested, the Littré. And I'll show you the Littré. There we go. This is a reference dictionary for the French language, and it describes how the words are used in phrases and in context. And I've spent many an hour sitting and looking at wonderful words. I do remember doing a study on effacer, which is one of our directions, and I'll do a directional video another time. I do remember spending a lot of time looking up effacer and finding its 18th century associations, which was wonderful. So I can recommend this one. Oh my word! If I look up Tourner in Le Petit Littré, we have a whole column. It goes over to the next page as well, describing where you can associate tourner. Just a reminder, I've made a film called Ballet Secret Code. It's a 1-hour documentary available on YouTube on this channel for free. It took a long time to make, I'm very proud of it, and it's all about ballet technique. You can find it on YouTube or click on the link below.